There is a sadness that does not belong to you, yet it lives in your bones. You have felt it since you were very young. It wasn't necessarily that something bad happened to you on a specific Tuesday. It wasn't a singular trauma you can point to on a calendar. It was the atmosphere. It was the air you breathed in the hallway of your childhood home. You look at other people, and they seem to possess a natural buoyancy. When they fall, they bounce. When you fall, you shatter. You watch them navigate life with a baseline of optimism that feels foreign to you, like a language you never learned to speak. You have spent years asking yourself, what is wrong with me? Why am I so heavy? Why is happiness so much work for me, when for others it is just a default setting? The answer is not that you are weak. The answer is that you were born into a story that was already a tragedy before you spoke your first word. We often talk about inheritance in terms of money or eye color or the shape of a nose. But psychology and epigenetics are revealing a darker truth. You inherit the unhealed wounds of your lineage. If your parents were depressed, whether they were the sleeping all-day type or the high-functioning angry type, they didn't just pass down genes. They passed down a lens through which to view the world. A lens that is gray, cracked, and distorted. You are not just fighting your own battles. You are fighting the ghosts of the battles your parents lost. Today, we are going to dissect the mechanism of this inheritance. We're going to look at the biology, the psychology, and the hidden contract of generational depression. This is why you feel like you have been tired for your entire life. Let's start with the hardware. Before you ever learn to walk, before you ever learn to fear, your nervous system was being calibrated. If your mother was suffering from untreated depression or chronic stress while you were in utero, you were bathing in cortisol. You were developing in an environment that signaled, the world is unsafe. The world is heavy. Prepare for scarcity. There is a field of study called epigenetics. It suggests that while we cannot change our DNA sequence, environmental factors, like a parent's chronic depression, can switch certain genes on or off. You may have been born with your threat detection system turned all the way up, and your reward system turned all the way down. This is called a genetic predisposition. It means that while your friend might need a catastrophic event to feel deep depression, you might feel it simply because it is Tuesday. You are running a race with a weight vest that your parents strapped onto you. But the biology is only half the story. The real damage, the stuff that rewires your personality for life, happens when you bring that sensitive nervous system into a house that cannot hold it. You enter the world seeking connection, seeking the mirror of your parents' face to tell you who you are. But when you looked into that mirror, what did you see? Did you see joy? Did you see delight? Or did you see exhaustion? Did you see a flat affect? A face that couldn't mobilize enough energy to smile back at you? When a child looks for emotional nourishment and finds a void, they do not stop loving the parent. They stop loving themselves. You learned very early that your needs were a burden. You learned that the baseline of human existence is mere survival, not thriving. And that lesson became your operating system. Depression is contagious, not in the way a virus is, but in the way a behavioral model is. In psychology, there is a concept called learned helplessness. It was observed in experiments where animals were subjected to stressors they couldn't escape. Eventually, they stopped trying. Even when a door was opened, they stayed in the cage. Growing up with depressed parents is a masterclass in learned helplessness. You watched how they handled adversity. Did they tackle problems or did they retreat to the bedroom? Did they communicate or did they use the silent treatment? You absorbed their coping mechanisms through osmosis. If your father saw the world as a hostile place where everyone is out to get you, you likely developed a cognitive distortion known as hostile attribution bias. You walk into a room and assume people dislike you. You assume the project will fail. You assume the relationship will end. You are predicting the rain because you were raised in a house where it never stopped storming. This creates a state of chronic hypervigilance. You became an expert at reading the weather of the house. You could tell by the sound of the front door closing what kind of mood your mother was in. You could tell by the heavy silence at the dinner table that you needed to be invisible. You learned to shrink. You learned that taking up space was dangerous. You learned that having loud, chaotic, joyful emotions was too much for your fragile parents to handle. So, you killed the parts of yourself that were loud. You killed the parts that were demanding. You became the easy child, the mature child. But the easy child is just a depressed adult in training. Here's where it gets darker. In a healthy family, the energy flows downstream. The parents pour into the child. The child takes that energy and grows. In a family with depression, the flow is reversed. The child pours into the parent. Psychologists call this parentification. Because your parents were emotionally vacant or unstable, you unconsciously took on the job of regulating their emotions. You became the therapist, you became the emotional spouse, you became the jester who tried to make them laugh, just to break the tension. You felt responsible for their happiness. If mom was sad, you thought, I need to be better. If dad was angry, you thought, I need to be quieter. This is a crushing weight for a developing mind. It installs a deep-seated belief known as toxic responsibility. You grow up believing that if the people around you are unhappy, it is somehow your fault. You walk into a room as an adult, and if your partner is quiet, you panic. Your brain screams, what did I do? How do I fix this? This leads to a lifetime of fawning. Fawning is a trauma response where you abandon your own needs to appease others, to avoid conflict or rejection. You become a chameleon. You have no boundaries because boundaries were never allowed in your childhood home. You give, and you give, and you give, waiting for the return on investment that never comes. You attract partners who are just like your parents, emotionally unavailable, depressive, or critical. You are trying to heal the wound with the very weapon that caused it. So, how does this show up now? You are an adult, you moved out, you maybe even went to therapy, but the depression lingers. It shows up as anhedonia. Anhedonia is the inability to feel pleasure in things that are supposed to be pleasurable. You get the promotion and you feel nothing. You go on the vacation and you feel guilty. You have a hard time trusting happiness. For the child of a depressed parent, happiness feels like a trap. In your childhood, whenever things were good, it was usually the calm before the storm. If your dad was in a good mood on Monday, he might crash on Tuesday. So you learn to brace for impact. You live in a state of foreboding joy. You cannot fully relax into a moment of peace because you are waiting for the other shoe to drop. You are waiting for the depression to come back. You self-sabotage. When things are going too well, your nervous system gets uncomfortable. You pick a fight. You procrastinate until it's a crisis. You revert to the chaos because chaos is what you know. It also shows up in your inner monologue. Listen to the voice in your head when you make a mistake. Whose voice is that? Is it a kind, corrective voice? Or is it a voice of catastrophic doom? You're so stupid. You always ruin this. Why even try? That is the introject. It is the internalized voice of your depressed, critical, or neglectful parent. They are no longer in the room, but they have set up camp in your mind. You are abusing yourself on their behalf. The most insulting thing people tell you is, happiness is a choice. When your baseline is genetic and environmental depression, choosing happiness feels like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes constant muscular effort. And the moment you stop trying, it pops back up to the surface. Society tells you that if you exercise, meditate, and journal, you will be fixed. And while those things help, they do not rewrite the history of your cells. You feel a profound sense of isolation because you are playing the game of life on hard mode while everyone else is on normal. You look at people who have close relationships with their parents, people who go home for the holidays and actually enjoy it, and you feel a mix of envy and grief. This is complex grief. You are grieving parents who are still alive. You are grieving the childhood you never had. You are grieving the person you could have been if you hadn't spent all your energy just trying to survive your own house. It is an invisible handicap. You look fine on the outside. You might even be successful. Many children of depressed parents become high achievers because they are still trying to earn the love they never got. But inside, the engine is running on fumes. Inside, there is that vibrating silence. So, are you doomed? Is this a life sentence written in your blood? The title of this video is, Your Parents Made You Depressed for Life. And in some ways, that is true. The scar tissue will always be there. You cannot unexperience your childhood. You cannot undrink the poison you were fed for 18 years. But while they wrote the beginning of your book, they do not hold the pen for the ending. Breaking a generational curse is not a passive act. It is an act of war against your own biology. It requires you to become a traitor to your family's misery. The first step is radical acceptance. You have to stop waiting for your parents to change. You have to stop waiting for them to apologize, to wake up, to suddenly become the vibrant, loving caregivers you needed. They can't. They are victims of their own parents, stuck in their own loop. You have to fire them as your source of validation. You have to accept that the depression is part of your biological makeup, like having bad knees or sensitive skin. It means you have to take care of yourself differently than other people. You need more rest. You need stricter boundaries. You need to be ruthless about who you allow into your inner circle. You have to engage in reparenting. This is the psychological process of giving yourself what your parents couldn't. When you are scared, you don't berate yourself. You soothe yourself. When you achieve something, you celebrate it. You have to build a new inner voice, brick by brick, to drown out the old one. You have to interrupt the pattern. The most terrifying realization is that you have the potential to become them. You catch yourself sighing the way your mother sighed. You catch yourself checking out the way your father checked out. Awareness is the only weapon against this. You have to say, "This is not me. This is a recording playing in my DNA, and I am going to scratch the record." The tragedy of genetic depression is that it feels personal, but it is actually systemic. You were handed a heavy bag of rocks the moment you were born. You have been carrying it up a mountain for 20 or 30 or 40 years. No wonder you are tired. But here is the truth that they didn't teach you. You can put the bag down. You can't erase the memory of the weight. You will always know how heavy it was, but you do not have to carry it for another mile. You are the cycle breaker. And being a cycle breaker is the hardest job in the lineage. You are the one absorbing the shockwaves of generations of trauma so that you don't pass it on to the next one. It stops with you. The sadness stops with you. The silence stops with you. If you felt seen by this video, if you felt that heavy click of recognition in your chest, hit the like button. It helps us find the other cycle breakers who are wandering in the fog. And if you want to learn how to rewrite the script that was forced upon you, subscribe. We are building a new family here, one that actually listens. And remember, your parents repeated the past. You are writing the future.